joining our webinar today. It's certainly a privilege for us to provide information to the talent mobility industry, and this is part of a series of webinars, this one on our Stevens Premier program. I'm Vicki Beerline, the Director of Business Development at Stevens Van Lines, and I'm here with my associate, Roger Wise, our Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Today we'd like to touch on a number of topics. We're anticipating the webinar to last about 30 minutes. We do have everyone's phone muted at the moment, and at the end we will open it up for questions. But some of the topics we'd like to cover are changes we're seeing in relocation and the solutions that we've come up for that. There are certain transferee and employee benefits that the Stevens Premier program offers, and we're very excited to share it with you. Roger?
Thank you, Vicki. This is a lot of fun to be able to present to you folks. Both Vicki and I are used to doing this in person. We go to a lot of trade shows together, so we're still working on our banter here and trying to make sure nobody falls asleep here. So we won't make any loud noises, but we are very pleased to have you here, and we've got a lot to share with you. One of the things that we find in relocation today is that there are some differences in demographics, and it's not even a relocation. We talk about millennials all the time, and it's interesting. You look at millennials, according to some studies, are now the largest group relocating for their jobs. Again, according to some studies, millennials today, I hate to characterize, I hate to overgeneralize, but we're seeing a trend towards dwelling in the city centers, away from the suburbs. We're seeing more and more folks in the high-rise, and that's, again, not just with millennials, that's corporate executives. More and more folks are moving to the high-rise condos and apartments. I travel a great deal, and virtually every city I go to is building high-end complexes of apartments and condominiums that very successful people are not necessarily keeping that 3,000-foot house with a basement out in the suburbs, but they're simplifying their life, they're streamlining, and yet they're still very important to their organization. Again, we're also seeing a great move to short-term assignments. Many of the clients we've talked to, they're moving folks around, and it's not a permanent move. So perhaps they're keeping a base of residence somewhere, and they're only moving a couple of rooms of possessions to another place to work for a period of time. And we've all had the challenge of what do we do with those new graduates? They've got about a room and a half of furniture, and how do we make sure they've got an experience that reflects the values and cultures of their new employer, of your company, that they get that great experience all the way through. So there's a lot of things going on here. We see it in some of the studies we read. Relocation is a huge investment for companies, and so we want to make sure we're responding to that. At the same time, our industry is changing, and not to bore you with our story, because this really is about you and your transferees, but there's great changes happening in our industry. Some studies show that the trucking industry in general, which we're a small subset of the relocation business, may be as much as 100,000 drivers short. That is, that the open positions that can't fill by the year 2025. We're already seeing numbers that are probably 30,000, shortfall of 30,000 people that are driving for a living today, and continue in that direction. It's a huge challenge we're facing as an industry. In the moving business, we count on people that are going to be on the road to serve our customers. And with some of the changes in graphics, it's a challenge that all of transportation is facing. In addition, the government's regulations continue to step up on our industry. Our drivers are driving a smaller and smaller percentage of each day. They have to spend more time shut down. You may see that in the state you reside in, that there are more and more places where you see trucks congregated on the side of the road. That's because in the name of safety, we absolutely support safety at our company. It's the Worldwide Van Lines. But in the name of safety, more and more of a driver's day and of a driver's week has to be on the side of the road. What happens is the truck that maybe could handle 30,000 pounds in an average week of household goods, maybe only handle 22,000 pounds, we're having to come up with about a quarter to a third more trucks to handle the same number of relocations that we did 10 years ago. So again, these are challenges we're facing. we're seeing some innovation. I love that truck on there. We don't have one of those yet. That's one of several prototypes out there of a partially self-driving truck. We're seeing some of the technology already. We've got trucks that have automatic braking systems. We've got trucks with some accident avoidance programs. That's also changing who is going to be behind the wheel for us. But all of this spells for us to continue to grow as an industry and serving the relocation workplace is we've got to come up with additional solutions for taking care of those corporate relocations. A new paradigm, if you will, is something we're looking at. The combined of so many small moves as well as a shortage in capacity. Our particular solution, and we aren't the only ones out there, it's something that the industry is looking at. We're going to talk today specifically to what Stevens has put together, is what we're calling the Stevens Premier Program. This is a program focused entirely at providing a high-quality experience for your transferee, even if they don't have a ton of possessions. What we do is we have local services provided by our local affiliates across the country. We have affiliates all over the United States, and so instead of having that van driver we've traditionally used who cuts across the country and stops to pick up your transferee and moves them on to their new city, instead we have our local crews that are going out to residents and picking those items up and preparing them to be shipped across the country. Then once those items are prepared for shipment, then we use a traditional freight company to move those items from state to state. And what this does is, however large our fleet is, this allows us to leverage the general freight world to service more moves than we normally could. We are in the month of June right now, as we all know, and for our business, the month of June is kind of like 1 month-long Black Friday. We are constantly struggling to service more customers, and we are booking up for much of this month. We've put notices out that we've got absolutely all of our capacity committed. As we develop things such as Stevens Premier, we can actually continue to grow our business and serve more customers even when we run out of trucks. We're very excited about that. It's seamless to our client in that you deal with the same move center, the same customer service team that you deal with on every move. The difference is that they will determine, based on the requirements of your transferee, what the best service method or service opportunity is, and they will route it. You don't have to decide, hey, what sort of move is this? Who do I call? We've made this a completely seamless process in our corporate move center. And we have the centralized process management to ensure that we're giving the highest quality across our system. We have local crews in 130 cities. We'd better have some good processes in place, and we'll talk a little bit about those, to ensure a consistent experience across the system. We are accountable to provide that service level that's expected of us. And that includes a number of processes like our automatic document transfer, that we have documents created at origin that are automatically provided to our crews at destination. Because again, we've got our local Stevens crew, goes out and packs and loads up everything. And then at the destination end, the city-to-city service drops off your employees' possessions at our destination agent. And from there, the local crews, again, background checked, qualified, and trained, are going to be delivering those to residents. We have a consistent experience for your folks from door to door. One of the questions that always comes up in this discussion is, what sort of containers are you using? We've come down to really a global standard when it comes to containerization. A huge percentage of shipments move over the sea, that move from country to country, and they are containerized in things that look like those two containers on the screen. One is what we call a lift van. It's a traditional, holds about 145 cubic feet. We've been using these for global moving forever. It's a process that our folks know how to do. Our industry is very experienced. We just haven't used it so much on the domestic side, certainly not for our corporate transferees. We also have Core Crate, which is a trademarked by one of our partners. It's a corrugated version of it. It's a little bit lighter, and so we can easily position these containers wherever your relocation might be. We received an order today for Stevens Premier coming out of a place in the middle of Iowa, about 80 miles from the nearest city of more than 25,000 people. It's a perfect solution for that. We can go out there and pack up and prepare all those items and take them even from the most remote location and put them into these containers. The key is consistency. That's what you expect from your service provider. The processes, the practices, the materials, it needs to be the same experience every time, and that's what we're very excited about, is we've built out a program that's providing that today. One of the keys we're doing is we need to focus on claims reduction. One of the greatest concerns of folks is, are you protecting my goods? And at the end of the day, that's what you're paying us for. They want to know it's going to be there on time. They want a lot of concerns, but the number one is, how are we ensuring that your transferees' possessions are being cared for? Well, we've put some new processes in there, and the first is our training materials. We've invested hundreds of hours into training our local agencies across the country and our processes, specifically of how we're doing things on a going forward basis. We have had both in-person as well as webinar presentations to date. A second thing is inspection, verification. I was taught early in my career that you have to inspect what you expect. And how do we do that across the country? Well, that's where our friends at Apple and Samsung help us. Our agents, to be compensated, they provide with each shipment uploaded photography showing the containers, partially loaded, fully loaded, sealed, to where we can see that every single shipment has been prepared to the highest of standards. Before we send in the city-to-city truck, we've reviewed those photographs to ensure that everything has gone according to plan. We don't want to trust folks. We want to make sure we verify. There was a certain president of our country a couple of decades ago, when I was a much younger guy, that someone asked him if he trusted another country, and he said, "We trust but verify." And that's really how we approach this program, is we trust but we verify. And we also incentivize it. One of the things that has been in the backbone of the relocation of the moving business is responsibility. If you touch somebody's possessions and you don't handle them properly, you're financially responsible for what took place. It's true of our van operators. It's true of our local agents. If you pack it, if you load it, if you wrap it, you are financially responsible if damage takes place. What we're doing under this program is we're incentivizing our agents. If they provide the photography and it demonstrates that they're properly preparing these shipments, pardon me, they have a zero liability. So if something happens and we have the photographic evidence they did it properly, they have 100% protection. So we've not only put inspections in place, we've also put the carrot out there to incentivize them to handle things in the highest possible way. Another way to put it is, we're rewarding all of our agents when they do the right things. We believe that's how you build a network of strength, of quality, and that delivers the service levels that you expect from us. Before we go any farther, I'm going to open it up for questions for just a moment, because I know I've been rattling on for a while, and you may have a question that you want us to address now before we go any farther. I surprised our operator here with, we're unmuting it now. Are we getting close? So if you have a question, feel free to speak up. We've got no questions. We'll go back on.
Actually, I sent a question.
I didn't quite hear the question. I'm sorry.
I sent the question.
Okay. Thank you. We'll pull that up. That is a great question. The question is, can we service rural areas that may be several hours from the nearest city? We can service those areas, and the cost will reflect the service, but we're saying yes. We love this program is allowing us to say yes to shipments where it's been traditionally difficult to get our truck in there, and we haven't yet. We're finding ways to say yes, so we would absolutely love to work with you on those. Any other questions on there? We're going to go ahead and mute everyone again because I know it's easier to hear if we don't have the background sounds. So Graham is busily that. Okay. Okay. Well, the next thing we want to talk a little bit about is what does this do for your transferee? Because at the end of the day, the point of a relocation program is to get your transferee satisfied, productive, and in position in the most cost-effective, quality way possible. Well, the first thing is day certain pickup. One of the things about small moves versus our industry tradition is that we've always made the moves that were smaller. We've had to work them around the larger moves. That is, one of those big trucks you see going down the highway that's 80 feet long, they may have 4 or 5 families worth of goods inside. Typically, we schedule around the biggest move, and then the next largest, and the smaller ones, we have to squeeze those in around the bigger moves. That's how the industry works. It's a basic logistics principle as you fill the bulk of your van, and then from there, you work accordingly. Which means that some of your transferees with fewer possessions have had to deal with some, let's just say, challenging transit times while we've tried to work them in. And that's not a Stevens, that's an industry thing, is that, you know, we can't dispatch an entire truck for just a very small amount of goods. We have to make sure we're operating effectively and efficiently. With Stevens Premier, we provide day certain pickup and we schedule a delivery date. It's one of the key programs, key pieces to the program is that we go, sorry, just got a note handed to me, but it is a schedule that's a fixed system to where they can predict their life. They don't have to wonder, is this coming this week, is it coming next week? We'll be able to determine with a great deal of accuracy. The second thing is flexibility. Personally, it's kind of fun. I'm going through a relocation myself. I got delivered into my temporary residence yesterday. I seem to go through this about every 2 or 3 years. After all these years in the business, you'd think I wouldn't be addicted to it as a personal experience, but I seem to be. But free storage at destination. We can't always schedule perfectly. We're moving at a day one, maybe a residence isn't available at the specific date. This program provides up to 2 weeks of storage for absolutely no charge to your transferee, to you for your transferees. We also have sped up transit times. It's pretty much 2 weeks anywhere in the country once we get things out of the residence and prepared for shipping, and in some cases as little as 7 days. So we're able to really accelerate things, have a little less limbo time for your transferee. And finally, versus in a van where we work very hard every day, things get loaded in the van, we use the inventory process. This one's a little simpler, that we end up handling their possessions less frequently. We get it loaded in the container, usually at residence, and then we secure those containers, and until they get out to residence again, we've got security on it all the way through. It's sealed up. Their items are segregated from anyone else's. I received a question from someone. I'm actually we had a question about weight tickets, and we're going to include that here on the next slide. So I just want you to know, the person who asked it, we are going to get to that here in just a moment. So those are the benefits to your transferee. It's a quicker experience. It's predictable. There's less uncertainty about it. We protect their goods. We seal them up. We keep them together. And the nice thing is that that employee who doesn't have a ton of stuff gets a high level of service. One of the conversations I've had with a number of clients is I've asked the question, what should determine the quality of relocation experience? Is it the position of your employee in the organization that should determine it and that importance, or is it the number of possessions they acquire? And where that question goes is you can have 2 VPs in an organization, and I'll use Chicago as an example, and one of them lives in a 1,200-foot high-rise condo down on Lakeshore Boulevard, and another one lives out in the suburbs and has a 3,000-foot home on the golf course with a full basement. Traditional moving services for all of us is that the one out there in the suburbs probably has 20,000 pounds or 75% of a truckload, whereas the one downtown maybe only has 2,500 pounds. If those folks are equivalent on the org chart of your company and they both should get a executive level experience, Well, traditionally, because the charges are more for the one out in there and they require 3/4 of a truck, it's a very different experience for the person out there in the suburbs. And really, I haven't met a client yet who says, oh no, everything should be decided by which of my employees is a hoarder and which one isn't, and the hoarder should get the best service. And I'm being a little funny with that by using the word hoarder, but people who amass more things have always gotten better service. And that's the beauty of Premier, is that you tell us this is someone who matters to our organization, and we can deliver the same great experience end-to-end, coast-to-coast. So for your company, what the benefits are is you're going to have people that are productive much more quickly. You're going to stay right there. You're having a, on the right, that was the right slide. Pardon me, we're not this new at it, but we're just having some syncing challenges here. But your folks are going to be productive. They're on the job more quickly. There's nothing worse than having someone who is living out of a hotel longer than they plan to, with perhaps a family, and the stress grows up and they just don't get really productive in their new role. We want to have folks productive right away. And you can talk to your transferees with authority about a predictable service level. You know what's going to happen. You know exactly how it's going to work. We also have introduced, we've got a number of pricing options. This one does not work off of a traditional tariff. Traditional moving rates are off of something called a tariff. And there's discounts and adjustments to it, and that's how this has always worked. And those rates have always been about utilizing a truck that holds today about 28,000 pounds and what percentage, and that's how all the old rates have always worked. This program doesn't work off of any traditional tariffs because it's an entirely new way of handling possessions. It's an entirely new way of delivering that service. So if a client requests, we can provide weight tickets, and that's absolutely no problem. Typically what we're doing is we're doing this on a per container price. You've probably seen commercials for the post office in their priority mail, and they have the containers on there, and they use a phrase that is trademarked that says, if it fits, it ships. Well, for most of our clients, we're doing a similar process on these, that whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 containers, we're providing a cost per container, and there were 3 containers, it was X dollars, here's what it comes to. And that's what we're doing with most of the folks we talk to today. We have some that it's on a more traditional, they want to know on a cost per 100 pounds and those sorts of things, and we can do that. That's custom crafted based on your needs, your audit requirements, and your processes. So if weight tickets are important, we can certainly provide those. But at the end of the day, as it says on the screen, like I said before, your policy determines the service level, not the possessions, not the fact that this person has so much stuff that it's going to take an entire van and therefore they get a better service level than someone else. And from this point, Vicki's going to jump back in and talk a little bit about what does that sound like in terms of the Stevens corporate relocation process.
Thanks, Roger. As you referenced, this is an entirely new way of transporting small shipments. It's a new way. However, the beautiful thing about the program is it does not affect the service benefits that you're used to receiving in a typical van move. We do have the capacity to service these moves with 125 domestic agents around the country, which is, it's kind of hard to see that little map there, but 94% of the U.S. population resides in our direct service areas, so we anticipate that we will be able to help even more customers. And this is done through our headquarters relocation service centers. We have a move center staffed with experienced, certified moving professionals. They orchestrate the actions of everybody involved in the move, communicating directly with your transferee so that they're always in the know, and they take care of all of the details so there's one point of reference for your transferee throughout their relocation. We also provide customized client reporting. Again, that's kind of a small little sample there, but we have the ability to report to you on all of the moves, not just the typical moving van, but also those that are transported via the containerized program, so that you know how many moves we handled, what the cost savings were, the time involved for every move, and the all-important customer survey after the move is complete, so so that you know how the experience was for your transferee, as we overtly ask them to please report on our performance, as we always want to do a fantastic job for you. So in addition, we still respect the employee's residence at origin and at destination, and we utilize our unique Stevens Home Protection Kit, which many of you might already be familiar with. We make sure that we protect their residents at all times when we're moving out and in, by protecting doorways, using ramp runners, and the like. So I'd like to assure you that all clients, whether it's the Stevens Premier Program or Van to Van, will receive the same great benefits that we're used to providing. And through the years, we've utilized this program with some of our clients. There is a list of them there. They have all benefited from this program through the years. So if you'd like more information, please go ahead and contact your account representative, or you can send an email to talentmobility@stevensworldwide.com. We'd love to talk with you further about this, direct one-to-one, see if it's a program that would benefit your organization.
Well, and Graham is telling me that we've got some questions teed up. Graham, what do we got?
All right. Are there any inventories? If there was a total loss of a container, how could you confirm what was shipped in that missing container?
We absolutely provide inventories. We treat this, we consider ourselves a bank, and you're placing your deposit with us. There's complete written inventories which are scanned into our system before they ever leave the Stevens agent's facility at the origin city. So we have copies of those, and those come through there right away, as well as we've got photographs.
The next one is, in the past, I was told that some moves are too small and are more expensive. Is this the case?
Well, we can handle any size move. I mean, at some point, UPS becomes the service provider of choice, but this is intended to be for folks. This is not a super low-cost program, and I need to be transparent with that. This costs more than a traditional van move would be, because we're building it up in a whole entirely different process. We've got somebody going out on a specific day, loading things, delivering on a schedule. So there is actually a bit more cost than you may have seen if you're getting a big discount from a moving company. But when you look at the overall cost for the move, it is still very cost effective. And again, we can handle large or small moves.
And the key is the transit time.
Yes.
That's a huge benefit.
Going back to relocation policy, should the level of service be the same regardless of a person's title and status in the company? I have people that relocate from all levels within our university.
Well, again, that goes to your policy with your organization. We have companies with multi-tier that if they have a C-level person, there are certain benefits which accrue, or even some of the universities we've worked with, we've seen that, if we're bringing in, a provost or a university president, they're coming at a very, very high level, and they may perhaps get an anything goes, versus if they are recruiting a junior professor, some of the folks are just giving them a cash stipend, and some of the folks are even U-hauling it in. So I use that to express that there are different levels of service. But from a moving and storage standpoint, logistically speaking, we can give a lot more clarity to someone who's taking an entire van, for example. We can be a lot more clear on exactly what schedules and timing are for those folks than we can for someone who's one of 8 shipments on a van. We've got to be a little bit more flexible as we're piecing together that move that's going to be 8 different folks that have to fit into the driver's schedule. So I wasn't trying to say that we don't have egalitarian policies, but again, there's 2 things going. One is policies in your organization, and if you've got the same policy for everyone, absolutely, that's the first thing we do in any meeting with a client, is understand what your program is. We find that many, though, have a tiered system depending on the contribution level to the organization. So if I misspoke that, I do apologize.
Are packing and or loading provided with additional cost, or are those included?
Packing, for a corporate program, we typically see that it's packing and loading is all done at the same time. Those are included. This is not a self-move program. Our experience has been with our clients is they want to make sure they've got a safe and a productive experience, and so we are not in the self-move. This is all about full service relocation.
You had mentioned cost savings, but there was no into what the savings were for.
Again, that's something we build out based on a client-to-client of what your programs are. One of the cost savings on this, our clients are telling us, it isn't necessarily that our cost is cheaper than another because this is not the cheapest program, but if you eliminate 2 weeks of per diem, and if your per diem program between hotel and meals is, say, $200 a day, 2 weeks, that would be, by my math, $2,800. So if this move takes place in 10 days instead of 28 days, or 10 days instead of 25 days, that's really one of the cost savings. But as we put these together, as Vicki mentioned, these are custom reporting that we base on your program based on what we have here with Premier. We build out what it is you're looking at, and then we work from there. But the cost savings are not that this is the cheapest way to move, folks. We all know what that is, hire locally. But this is all about providing the level of service and then finding ways to save by making your folks more productive.
Are you internationally packing the goods, and how does the insurance work for this program?
Okay, we do prepare these just as we would an international move. We're using disposable or recyclable packaging materials. We've got a whole manual we put together on exactly how that needs to take place. The value protection, we have a couple of options depending on our clients. Many of our corporate clients prefer to self-insure, that is, they go through a third-party insurance, so we can release this at the minimum liability of 60 cents a pound. Otherwise, it's the same as any other full-service move. We provide full value protection. It's typically $6,000 minimum for one container, $10,000 coverage for two, $15,000 for three. And it goes up from there. They can declare a higher value if necessary, but it's a traditional full replacement cost protection program.
The last question here on the list is, are there traffic lanes this would not be ideal for? Clarity.
Well, we haven't identified a place where we won't do it. What comes into play is we've had some folks ask something that was almost a local move, and it doesn't make sense if it's just something short and easy. Typically, if you're within 150 miles, where we're just putting it on a truck, driving it, delivering it, this program doesn't make sense. It's more cost-effective, more logistically expedient to just plan a traditional move. So depending on the origin and destination location, the specific distance may change. Perhaps you might want to containerize going from Boston to Philadelphia, but the same distance across California, you'd put it in a van. So each one of those, we're going to cancel and coach you based on the parameters of what would be the best way of transferring your employee. That's all the typed in questions we have. If anyone wants to, I guess they can raise their hand, and we may unmute one at a time, and we'll try it that way. So we're just going to give this a moment. We want to respect your time, and we've actually run over by 3 minutes. And we're not seeing anything. Folks, we really appreciate you investing your time this afternoon. Look forward to further conversations with myself. Again, you saw our names, Vicki and Roger, but I'm here at headquarters at Stevens Van Lines. Your account representative will be happy to facilitate a conversation further to see if this is a fit for your group and to see if this makes the best sense for you going forward. We'd love to see how this fits into your program.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, everyone.
Have a great afternoon and happy moving.